Welcome to Financials with Ahawo. Thank you for making time to listen. It's always exciting to learn with you. We are on our Financial Wellness Conversations podcast, and today we are talking about growing your portfolio through equity. Yes, this series is about portfolio growth, and stay with me. It's going to be amazing and so engaging. So we'll start with scripture. We'll go to Mathew chapter 13, verse 51, and it says, "Have you understood all these things?" They said to him, "Yes." And he said to them, "Therefore, every scribe who has been trained for the kingdom of heaven is like a master of a house who brings out of his treasure what is new and what is old." It's so important to be able to assess and see within our portfolio what are the things that we need to have. They are the old things which have done well, but the newer things that can be able to support our portfolio to do better. And I want to take us to the next level. We've talked about savings, alluded to us being really good at saving currently, like the culture is growing. But how about investments? How do we convert these savings into things that are investments and things that we are building up? So, what is equity? Equity is a share, and a share is when you own a part of a company or when you own a part of something. So for this context, it's going to be a part of a company. Why is it important for us to understand equity? It's important for us to understand equity because when you are an owner, then you partake in losses, you partake in profits, but because of the way this is incorporated, it is not for your personal property. It is only liable to what you put in that company. So let's bring that into the world of investment. Ideally, when you want to invest in equity, this will be done through a stock exchange. And a stock exchange is now where companies are listed publicly and the shares are put with their price, they are put with their earnings per share, they are put with their dividends. And each company that is listed is accountable to the public. And every year they have to make their accounts public, they have to close their books and elect to declare a dividend or not. This is very interesting because what does it mean? If you choose the right companies and they elect to pay out a dividend, you could earn. Again, if you choose the right company and they elect not to pay out a dividend and invest it in that company, you still are able to earn. So stay with me. One of the things I've been learning of late is just what different investment strategies should one have in place when it comes to stock, equity, or shares. It all means the same thing. I've been reading an amazing text. It's by one of the best investors to date. There could be better ones, Warren Buffett. And this book is called Buffettology. It's not even done by him. It's done by someone else who really explains some of the things that Warren Buffett used to choose the kind of shares he bought or what constituted his portfolio. I also remember a few years back reading a book now by Warren Buffett himself, which is called The Tower of Warren Buffett. And he said something so distinct. He said, invest in a company that even a fool will run because one day a fool will run it. And what was he saying? He was saying, look at the business beyond just it's hyped in the market. Look at the business beyond it's what everybody is running to. Look at the business even beyond just the product that it's selling and it's novel and all of this. But look at the business long term. Are you buying a good business? Are you buying great ideas? Is the leadership in place? Is the governance in place? Are there systems of succession in this business? What is the value of this business? Because sometimes there are businesses on the stock market that are so overvalued and it doesn't make sense. And I won't use examples, but being Kenyan, we know some of the things that we've had with the value of companies. So think about it this way. Me as Ahawo, I'm interested in someone who sells clothes and there's a business, they sell clothes. I take time to understand their credentials. They're listed on the stock market and it's interesting to me. So I decide to buy into that company through the stock market. So that becomes an investment. How do we get our return? We get our return when the value of that company rises, the share price of that company rises. We get another value when it declares a dividend. This can be two ways. A dividend can be good, but we also have to be cognizant to the fact that every time we receive a dividend, we are taxed for it. So we do get to lose a portion of that. So sometimes it could be better to invest in a company where the dividend goes back in. And when you're ready to sell it, then you sell it over time. It's been said that the stock market is a place where the patient make money from the impatient. So it also means if you're thinking of the stock market as being a place where you grow a portfolio, you have to have a certain level of patience. So let's talk about different stock markets globally. And we can start with our own. In Kenya, the current stock market is the Nairobi Stock Exchange. It's a market that's fairly young. It has maybe about, if I'm remembering right off the top of my head, about 8 segments. I hope I'm correct, but we'll put a link down and you can see. It's a young, emerging market because even of the economy we are in, we don't even trade a lot of tools there. Then there is the South Africa Stock Exchange. This is a bit more mature. They even trade things like metals and things like that. Then there is the Nigeria Stock Exchange in Lagos, and then there's the Egyptian one. So within Africa, these are the main ones. But other countries are also emerging, and it's somewhere where we're aspiring to grow into. But they're bigger markets. The London Stock Exchange does a lot. The New York Stock Exchange, we've heard about it, we've seen movies about it. There's the one in Singapore, in Japan, Tokyo. Then there's the NASDAQ. So there's a lot of these stock exchanges that are opening spaces for us to trade in the shares or the equity or the stock of companies. So what's the history of the stock exchange? This goes back to BC, believe it or not. Traders began to come together so that they could have better outcomes, they could negotiate better, they could protect themselves from bandits, and they could supply in bulk. So this first started as a regular market, like allow me to use Swahili, think of it as a soko. Like you're there, everybody's like, hey, I'm trader from Taiwan, this is what I have, come and buy. I'm going to be going for about a month to bring goods. When I come back, you'll make your return. Another one is, oh, I'm trader from Kenya, this is what I have. So the stock market began like that. And that's why sometimes you see, we talk about the flow of the market, and it can look so hectic. This is my share price, that is my share price. But so it kind of began like that, but it began to be organized, to be structured. That is also when by then, the kings, the church were interested in it, and traders realized we have to regularize this, and it began to grow. So places like Kenya here, we now have like the Capital Markets Authority, we have the Central Depository Systems. So the Capital Market Authority regulates the capital market, and the Central Depository System is where every share that we buy is listed. So it doesn't matter who is buying is listed. Then we have the stock brokers listing. So stock brokers are those who help us to buy shares on the stock market. The way our market runs in Kenya, you do not buy shares of a company directly also from the stock exchange. You buy through a stock brokerage company that will trade on your behalf and will also support you with professional guidance to make sure that you're making the right purchases. I hope we've noted that we have regulation. So even as we are building our portfolio, it's very important to build your portfolio around regulated areas. It's okay to venture, but remember we had talked about risk. The less regulation there is, the higher risk, and the more chances we have of losing that investment. And I mean, you've worked hard for your money, you don't want to lose it. So allow me to share with you my journey of how I came into the stock market. I studied BCom Finance, and I had an interest to engage in the stock market because of the community I had. My friends were interested, and during that time, the Nairobi Stock Exchange started a program where they wanted young people in university to learn more about the stock market. So this was called the NSC Challenge, and the NSC Challenge would give you a mock platform with all the shares that are listed on the stock exchange, and you had to try and trade, see if you'd make a return and things like that. And at the end, we had to do a report of why this was important to you, your decision-making matrix. And you were doing it as a group, but the reports were to be done individually. So I was very interested. I did it for a time. I remember my family following through with me. Oh, so this is what you're doing. And by the grace of God, I actually emerged among the top people. When I did now my individual presentation, I was even listed on the newspaper, the local newspaper. And it was such an intriguing thing for me. You mean this is something I can explore? Of course, studying finance meant certain things of which we're already studying in school. So I was very happy to put my knowledge into practice in a practical way. And that is how my journey began. And this I'm saying to encourage a young person listening. You don't need to have worked for 5 years to start investing in the stock market. The stock market needs you to buy a minimum of 100 shares per company. If you were to do a list and see, which I have my list here actually, so why don't we use my list and see some interest? So I'm not promoting any shares, just for us to be cognizant to that, but this is just for learning purposes. So I have here the Nairobi Stock Exchange. This is even way back when, so don't even worry. The shares have changed. So this is 2002, and the sectors are agriculture, automobiles, banking, commercial and services, construction and allied, energy and petroleum, insurance, investment services, manufacturing and allied, telecommunication, real estate, investment trust, those are rates, that's a new entrant in the market, and exchange traded funds, which are also new. So these are different sectors. So allow me maybe to pick a company that we all know in Kenya. Let's pick East African Cables. So if African Cables is under construction, one of the things we know is that Kenya is building for the next 50, 100 years. Like you can even see where we are. Construction is happening all around us. So East African Cables in 2022, this was August, was trading at 1 shilling and 17 cents. So to buy 100 shares of East African Cables, I just needed to have 117 shillings and a bit extra for the commission of the stockbroker. So maybe 125 shillings. And I've already bought myself my first 100 shares. If East Africa Cable was to close their books and declare a dividend and say that they are going to pay 1 shilling per share, I have earned 100 shillings out of my 100 shares. I have earned, 1,000 shillings or 10. I hope I've done the math right. Out of my 100 shares. If the share of East African Cables was to continue to appreciate in value, and right now in 2025, it's trading at 3 shillings, the value of my investment has grown up by 2 shillings. So I was worth 100 shillings, I am now worth 300 shillings. So just to think a bit like that. When you build your portfolio, you have to be strategic, but you can start small. You don't have to be intimidated, and you start from the things that you already know about. You know East African Cables, you can get a lot of the information online, so you can be able to trust them and be able to buy into that business. Another experience I had with the stock exchange, and when I talked about regulation, is having started early, there were a lot of companies who were already trading in the stock exchange. And the stockbroker I chose, unfortunately, was not credible, and they went under receivership. But because of regulation, another company took them over. Yes, it took about a year, but I was able to recover all my stock and my money's worth, and I was able to continue to trade. So we must be very careful to operate within the right context as we are trading in these stock exchanges. And we challenge ourselves not only to think of Kenya, I've told you about stock markets out of this country, even out of this continent, so that you can be able to explore. So as you're building your portfolio, stock, equity, shares, whichever you want to call it, is something you need to have. Thank you for listening. It's Ahawo. God bless you.